The Znamenskia Chapel stands directly in front of the entrance to the monastery, on the right side of the square leading to the Holy Gates. The structure is in the form of a stone arch with a triangular pediment, into which a stone medallion is embedded. The Chapel of the Sign of the Mother of God was built in 1862 in honor of the visit of Alexander II to the Valaam monastery with royal persons, as evidenced by the inscription carved in the medallion. It is one of the most monumental buildings on Valaam. It was erected from Valaam granite and black marble. 4 marble columns are connected by arches, and on the outer wall of the apse is a mosaic depiction of Saint Alexander Nevsky. The Znamenskia Chapel was designed by architect Alexei Gornostayev, who can be said to be the main architect of the Valaam monastery. He built many things in the monastery, and his name is forever inscribed in the history of Valaam. At the heart of the monastery grounds stands the 5-domed Transfiguration Cathedral, constructed of red brick with white trim, slightly offset towards the eastern side of the monastery. The cathedral is flanked on 3 sides by the monastic cells of the inner quadrant, and on the 4th side, it is enclosed by an aesthetically pleasing iron fence that mirrors the shape of the semicircular apse. The cathedral we see today is the 3rd incarnation of the Transfiguration Cathedral, erected in the late 19th century with the active involvement of Abbot Damascene. This impressive structure, adorned with miraculous icons and distinctive murals, is remarkable for its size and grandeur. The contrast between the red brickwork and the white stuccoed upper section is striking, while the blue domes nearly merge with the heavens above. On the current site of the Transfiguration Cathedral, a wooden structure was commissioned in the early 18th century, shortly after Valaam was liberated from Swedish control. However, it was short-lived. By the century's end, Hegumen Nazari, the monastery's abbot, envisioned a stone cathedral to replace the wooden one. He personally drafted a plan for the stone structure, which proposed a 5-domed cathedral encompassed by a quadrangle of monastic cells, flanked by 2 smaller churches dedicated to the Assumption and St. Nicholas, and a bell tower above the entrance. This arrangement has endured through the years. Concurrently, the foundations for both the lower and upper churches were laid, a principle upheld in subsequent renovations. The construction of the Transfiguration Cathedral was completed in just 8 years, a notably brief period for the 18th century. The monastery's brethren fondly recalled the visit of Tsar Alexander I in 1819, during which he prayed within the cathedral as a humble pilgrim. By the end of the 19th century, the cathedral had become overcrowded. Hegumen Damascene had already initiated plans for a new, grander church. He intended to collaborate with the architect Gornostayev, who was well known to him, but Gornostayev's unexpected passing delayed construction for many years. Once the revised plans for the Transfiguration Cathedral were finalized, the old structure was dismantled to repurpose its bricks and granite for the new edifice. The entire brotherhood participated in this effort. The newly constructed cathedral was twice the size of its predecessor, reaching a height of 42 meters and capable of accommodating up to 3,000 individuals. This capacity remains the same today. Designed in a pseudo-Byzantine style, reminiscent of the naval cathedral of St. Nicholas in Kronstadt, the church comprises 2 levels. The lower level houses the church of St. Sergius and St. Herman, where their relics were enshrined. This marked the first church on Valaam dedicated to the founders of the monastery. 2 staircases, located on either side of the porch, lead to the upper church, the Church of the Transfiguration of the Lord, merging into a wide granite staircase. The walls and ceiling of this church are lavishly adorned with frescoes, featuring 72 large compositions. This new church was reconsecrated by His Holiness Patriarch Alexei II in 2005. The frescoes in both churches were painted by Valaam iconographers under the guidance of Abbot Gabriel, who had received specialized training in icon painting. Although there exists a theory that some frescoes were created by Repin during his time in Finland, this has yet to be substantiated. Regardless, even without the potential contributions of Repin, the cathedral's frescoes are celebrated as significant artistic achievements.
The Voskresenski Skeet is spread out on a high hill on the shore of the Bolshaya Nikonovskaya Bay, directly above the main pier. From the pier to the skeet, you can climb up a path or a stone staircase, which start right at the pier. Voskresenski, or Red Skeet according to legend, was built on the site where Andrew I called once erected a cross and predicted a great future for Valaam. But that is a legend. The red brick church, hence the Skeet's second name, was built on the site of a wooden chapel at the beginning of the last century. The well-known industrialist and philanthropist Sibiryakov donated 10,000 rubles for its construction. This is a two-story church made of Valaam brick with a three-flight staircase and granite columns. Its gilded dome was a good landmark for ships arriving at Valaam with pilgrims and tourists. When the Skeet was joined by inhabitants, 3 more buildings were constructed: a cell building, a utility building, and a large 2-story refectory with cells, all of them made of red brick. The entrance to the church of the Voskresenski Skeet is originally designed. It's an open porch with 4 columns connected by arches. Underneath, it is the lower St. Andrew's Church, arranged in the likeness of the cave of the Holy Sepulchre Church in Jerusalem. The Gethsemane Skeet is located at the foot of the Mount of Olives, on the north side of the main monastery road. It is easily recognizable by the bright blue domes and roof of the Assumption Skeet Church. Biblical names appeared on Valaam after Abbot Mauritius of the Valaam Monastery visited Jerusalem at the very beginning of the last century and brought back a particle of the Holy Sepulchre. And Valaam began to acquire the features of Russian Jerusalem. The rocks on the shore of Malaya Nikonovskaya Bay were named the Mount of Olives, and at its foot, naturally, the Garden of Gethsemane was laid out, where lilac bushes, an oak and maple grove were planted, and a fir alley was made. The Gethsemane Skeet soon appeared as well. The Assumption Church of the Gethsemane Skeet is built in the style of Russian wooden churches, made of timber and clad with planks. A 3-tiered bell tower and a porch under a gable roof adjoin it from the west, and a 5-sided altar from the east. The church walls are painted yellow, which is why the skeet is also called the Yellow Skeet. The Ascension Chapel is located approximately 200 meters from the Gethsemane Skeet if you go up the winding path. It is a wooden chapel with 5 blue domes and a beautiful porch. The Ascension Chapel stands on the top of a 30-meter cliff, offering a wonderful view of the small Nikon Bay. The chapel was also called on the Elion, and pilgrims imagined that they were as if in the Holy Land on the Mount of Olives. The chapel is built in the same Russian style of wooden architecture as the Skeet Church. Notice the tall dome of the Ascension Chapel, covered with metal scales, topped with a dome with a gilded sphere and cross. Also, notice the ornate window frames with a visor.